Welcome back to the Open Mic Broadcast Network, the radio guy, Dr. Mike Prince. We are in championship week, and I am so fortunate to have on the line with me none other than Coach Heiss Northern. Coach, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing pretty good. Ready to hopefully get a chance to sit down and watch the Celebration Bowl this weekend. I had a chance to tune in to, I told you about the guys that I either worked with or played with or coached that were going for the state championships last weekend in Louisiana. And both of those guys won. Coach Asbury, who's coaching at Southern Labs, one of the schools that I went to, they ended up winning 42-35. And ironically, his defensive coordinator was one of my student assistants at Grambling when I was coaching. And then Opelousas High, they ended up winning against a team that they had lost to early in the season. And Jimmy Zachary is the head coach. He was a defensive lineman for me when I coached at Grambling. So I was happy that those two guys won the state championships in their respective divisions. So now, like I say, I'm ready for a little bit of bowl season, get a chance to watch some of these Texas high school championships. Hey, and Mike, I'll watch 6 and 8 man football if I have a chance to.
Oh man, it's exciting. I've actually been fortunate to broadcast some 6-man football. All I can say is you better keep some oxygen and some water, brother, because the points rack up quick.
Yeah, it's almost like you say, it's like basketball, and a lot of people don't know anybody can catch it or throw it or run it, pretty much with the exception of certain rules that they have. But I like watching, and I used to like watching arena football as well. But I like the 6-man, the 8-man, and then I'll try to keep up with all of South Dallas, the Duncanville, the South Oak Cliff, and then with Summer Creek going up there, real good friends with Coach Harrison, who was coaching at Port Arthur Memorial, where we had a lot of guys from when I coached at Prairie View. So I'm looking forward to seeing quite a few guys that I know, programs that I recruited from. And there's a lot of brothers, too, that's running these programs that have a chance to win state championships.
Absolutely. And you talk about that brother patrol. We're in a ram right now when it comes to the Southwestern Athletic Conference. Last time we were together, of course, now South Carolina State has their guy. Whispers are being uttered in the wind that Southern has their guy, which now leaves Texas Southern and Grambling, who they say are close to closing in on their guy. When you look at the salaries that are available, and I know what the answer is, but I have to ask it. I would not be a man considered a credible journalist if I didn't ask the question. The salaries, and they're so contrasting, and we know that it's due to lack of source and resource of which our funding comes from. Is there any way that would ever be offset, or is that just the way it is for HBCU coaches in particular?
Well, it depends, to be honest with you, because some of the schools may have either a foundation set up or they may have a certain set of boosters that they can go to when they know that, hey, we need X amount of dollars to bring in a new coach. So that's one of the things that they can do, because sometimes you have to go by the state rules in terms of you can't have two people basically on salary in the same position, especially if they have a contract. Even though Louisiana, I'll tell you, is an at-will state where you can get fired for no reason. And one time we had contracts and still could get fired. Basically, if the head coach just told you, don't come back to work tomorrow, and you could have a contract signed and everything. But it's different things in different places. I know some coaches now are starting to make almost like themselves a LLC, and they get paid through the LLC. So it's different ways that now people are getting creative with how they pay the coaches, where the money comes from. If it's all state funds, then it's a different set of rules that you have to go by. And a lot of times, because most of the HBCUs are state funded, they playing a different game than what maybe some of the other FCS schools that don't have that one guy to say, all right, we want the last guy gone. Here goes $300 in my tax write-off, or $300,000 as my tax write-off, and let's get the new guy in here as soon as possible. So, and like I said, I hadn't looked at the range of salaries, but one of the things you have to look at too, the cost of living, just say in Houston, Texas, versus the cost of living in Grambling, Ruston, Monroe, Louisiana. So it's some things that you have to look at. I also have to look at guaranteed money versus options, or bonuses versus guaranteed. So it's a lot that goes into getting coaches paid the money that they think they deserve.
Right. And when you look at it from an HBCU set of lens, the balance is going to always be unequal, and that's just the nature of the beast. My response to that is, because of that obvious glaring factor, we have to stop trying to operate the way others operate and come up with the unique, creative, outside-the-box way of doing things. And I try my hardest not to land-base people or coaches, administrators, and definitely student athletes. But to me, the problem is this. The key to all of it is a strong athletic director. Now, when I say a strong athletic director, I'm not talking about a guy who can go and sign a bunch of guarantee games and say, look at the money I've raised. But this is a guy who can go out, beat the bushes, and even if you're starting off with drips and drabs of donations, if there are enough of those drips and drabs come in, it's just as effective as a downpour from one large donation. And I think we have taken and got accustomed. We talk about that word culture all the time, which burns me up. But our culture is lazy fundraising by going and signing these guarantee games. And as you look at the newly developed shape of college football in particular, as we once upon a time knew it, it is no longer going to exist, Coach. These Power 5 guys are going to literally get their ball and go home. And they're not going to look in our direction because now the heat is up, the stakes are up, and they don't benefit from playing those guaranteed games when it comes to their rankings.
Yeah, that's one of the things that the schedulers are going to have to look at. But going back to that administrative part of the athletic director part, you have to have someone, first of all, that's given some leeway to operate differently. And for people that work under that guy or lady to say, hey, okay, here's what I want to try to do. How can we make this work? And you have to bring, I think you have to bring in new ideas a little bit, but like I say, understanding where you are, and some of those things that you may have done at certain schools may not work here, but you still have to, like I say, you have to get out there and beat the bushes for funding. You have to, I think, at a lot of HBCUs, we have to re-engage our alumni, and we have to do a better job of treating our student athletes and students as well appropriately when they get on campus, because I run into a lot of people from every university that I've been to, probably with the exception of Morehouse, that say, well, I'm not going to give back because of this. Or when I was there, we didn't have that, so I'm not going to do this. Where I gave money, it's like the Baptist and the Baptist church and the windows, where I put in for the windows and we still don't have no windows up, but they don't know enough people haven't given. So you may be trying to do some things, but you still have to, get out there and be transparent with, hey, this is where we're trying to get to, this is where we are, and keep people updated on where are we with our fundraising situation and what is the money going to. And I'll speak for myself personally. When I give money to Southern University, football, I give to baseball as well, they usually will, I'll talk to the head coach of each sport, and they will say, what they need it for, and I put that as a line item on the check, whether it's recruiting, equipment, computers, whatever, and that's what they have to use it for. Now, just say if I give $5,000 and there's some funds left over, then they will maybe come back to me and say, hey, Coach, we have some money left over from what you gave. Do you mind if we do X, Y, Z with those funds? So it's the transparency that's getting better in some places, where other places, I may give money, or my wife may give money to X, Y, Z, and you don't hear back from those people, and you may have a hard time even getting your tax write-off receipt. You see what I'm saying? So it's a lot that goes into that, but you have to have somebody that is is a go-getter. You got to have somebody that don't mind getting their fingernails dirty, don't mind getting their knees dirty, don't mind getting their shoes dirty, and just say, we're going to roll up our sleeves and we're going to get after it. And you may not see them around the office because they going to XYZ trying to get some funds raised, or they on the phone trying to get funds. So there's a lot of different ways to go out there and get the money. But it's going to start with the students that you have, and then the word is going to have to spread. And you may have to do some what we call in-kinds, where somebody give you X amount of dollars, they get a jacket, a better parking pass, something free that maybe only the student athletes. You may get all the 20 extra warm-ups, and if somebody donate X $1,000, they get a warm-up just like the coaches and the players will. So you have to be creative in what you're doing when you're talking about the fundraising. But that person and the presidents, in my opinion, sometimes have to let those people do their job. You just got to, almost like they say, turn them loose and let them go and see them when you see them.
No doubt, because in an ideal situation, the athletic director gathers and take notes from all of his coaches he or she has, go back with a want list and a need list, and then combine those to get a realistic list. And you present it to the president. This is what we are. This is what we want. This is what we need. But this is what we can really work with. And a lot of it, and I hope that, I don't even care. If you think it's bashing, maybe it's you I'm talking to. A lot of these presidents don't even understand athletics, but they try to control athletics. You get a lot of them that agree on media rights deals when they don't understand media rights, and we get the short end of the stick, i.e. ESPN for years, but that's a whole nother thing. And you then handcuff your athletic director, which in turn handcuffs your coaching staff. But here's something I want to make mention of. And what I really appreciate about our dialogue, Coach, it's not script, it's not orchestrated. It's just two men who love HBCU sports. One went to Southern, the other went to Prairie View. You gave a little flash on how things operate from your lens with Southern. I'm going to give you, from my lens at Prairie View, not what I've heard, not what someone else is whispering to me, what I experienced. I lived through the 0-88 seasons as a student athlete at Prairie View. Okay? And what I experienced from that era is we were the nomads. They ridiculed us. The support was hit and miss. The budgets were non-existent, and you made do with what you had. But we lost an entire lot of games. But we also graduated a lot of student athletes, okay? And it was like, and I'm speaking from my experience, all you heard about was what they did in 1964, which was great. Like the 80s and the 90s didn't matter, okay? When you had an athletic director with the little funds we did have, but you had an athletic director who was taking what little resources we had and giving athletic scholarships to his sons and daughters when they never even picked up a ping pong ball. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But we have to live through those things. When our athletic budget for the entire athletic department was $800,000, and A&M, who's supposed to be our quote unquote brothers, football program alone was at $2 million. But we had to make do out of it. But then to see and understand how history really works, if we didn't persevere, you wouldn't have what you have today. And those student athletes supported and gave the very best they had. It might have sucked from here to high heaven, but they gave the very best they had. Okay? And they are forgotten. And you know what the problem is, Coach? Because you've forgotten them, their kids are the students now. And they are hearing the horror stories on how their parents were handled, and they're not motivated to even show up to the games. And they're treating it as a time spent in prison. I'm going to do my time, and I'm getting the heck up out of here and go with the rest of my life. That's the real that they don't want to talk about. And this may be ticking something off, but I don't even care. Go ahead, Coach. I'm sorry.
Hello? No,
sir.
I was going to say a lot of it has to do with perspective and I guess like the mindset of certain people. So one of the reasons why I give, and for a while, especially when I was coaching in the conference, I played baseball at Southern, so I would give money. I gave more to baseball than I did to football because I remember being a baseball player and having to buy my own shoes. I used a team issued bat. I had to buy my own jacket when the weather was cold. So I was more into, I'm going to make it better for somebody else, where some people would say, well, I didn't have it, I'm not going to do it type of thing. It's like, how you have to use it, in my opinion, turn everything negative into a positive. So I tell people also, when I finished playing at Southern, they gave me a Letterman jacket. The Letterman jacket was too small, and I wasn't as big as I am now, but the Letterman jacket that I got as a senior was too small for me when I got it. So I kept the jacket, and I made mention of it to the athletic director at the time, that we need to make sure that we do right by the kids that are there. So I make a point of trying to do better for the guys that are there now, no matter who the head coach is. So that's one of, like I say, you have to find a way to reconnect. And then when I talk to guys at Prairie View, when I see them at games, I ask, hey man, what are you doing for these guys now? And a guy told me, one of my former players, that, Coach, every time I come up here, they're always asking for something. I say, you don't think that's what they do at other schools? I say, I can go to my house now, and I guarantee you, between me and my brother, there are 10 letters from Southern University and LSU and Grambling and some of the other places that I worked that I made donations to that are still trying to get more from me. So they're like, man, this is your school. You have to support them, even if you don't per se like who the head coach is, or they had a bad record last year. Now we got to get past that and support our schools, like they say, come hell or high water. So, like I say, I know we on a little soapbox, but we got to find a way. And then, like I say, as a culture, we don't come from a giving culture per se, besides some people in their church. But we have to do a better job as a people, as a alumni group, as a support group, of trying to make sure that we understand the difference between giving and buying something as well. So we got to make it better for whoever coming down the road. And that's where you got to tap into your alumni base, your former student athlete base, all those things, the local area businesses that benefit from you having home games. You have to tap into those people and make it better for whoever they're now and for the near future. I'm sorry.
Absolutely, absolutely. Talking right now with Coach Heiss Northern. Yes, we are on a little HBCU support rant, but I'm not being apologetic, Coach. Some things need to be said, and it's not bashing anyone. It's just acknowledging where we are. And since we're going to acknowledge where we are, let's just get this out so we can get it behind us down the road. NIL doesn't even matter with us.
Nah,
that's not realistic for us. So why are we faking ourselves out? Okay, yeah, we could recite it, we can tattoo it on us, we can repeat it 10 times or 7 times, like they say in Candyman. It's not going to matter with us. And as I referred to, and we're going to talk about the FAMU Bison game, but I wanted to run this by you, Coach. I've been on the soapbox all week, so might as well keep it going. I don't know if you've been hearing that there's been disgruntledness that we need to dissolve the East and the West because it's not fair. The best teams are not playing, and blah, blah this and blah, blah that. And I think I may have finally come up with a remedy, Coach. And I don't know if you're going to agree with it or not. You laughing, Coach. I'm serious. I really think I came up with a remedy. For the most part, we play 11 games, right?
Yeah.
We have 12 teams currently in our beloved conference, correct? So, instead of us playing the non-thrilling, non-conference game, why not have everybody play everybody? Okay? That way, you don't get to say this team dodged that team, they didn't play that team. Everybody plays everybody, and you can do it one of two ways, whether you have divisions or whether you have just one big old conference. The top 4 teams, you start at week 0, you play your 11 games. The top 4 teams play week 12 in a playoff. The 2 standing teams play week 13 for the championship game, and then you get 2 weeks off to play the MEAC champion. How does that sound, Coach?
I'm going to play devil's advocate, and I would be in agreement with everybody playing everybody, but adding extra games, I'm not going to be in agreement with. From a player standpoint, you know, financially, is it going to who is it going to benefit financially? So just say if you end up with, unless you say the 2 teams from the East play each other and 2 teams for the West, yeah. But I think that's pretty much the model that I want to say the CIAA uses, where they play the teams from the other side of the conference technically are non-conference games, and then all the teams on your side of the division are conference games. I think and they may have one non-conference. They don't have as many teams as the SWAC, but they may have one team that's not in the conference, and then they still play a championship game. So some of that I would agree with, but the extra game, the 1 versus 2 or the East 1 versus East 2, I probably wouldn't be in agreement with that, but I would be in agreement with everybody playing everybody with maybe one outside chance for a money game. But then you got to throw in an off week in there. That's brutal playing 11, 12 weeks in a row. At the end of the season, probably about game 6 or 7, you're going to be going out there in shorts and shoulder pads for practice.
Okay. But it sure would eliminate a bunch of the ruckus, you know. And,
yeah, man.
And
I just say let them talk.
Let them talk. And you could.
Yeah,
I guess if you eliminate.
Just came through, Mike.
Sure.
Hello. All right.
Yes.
So I'm sitting here on the phone with you, and I just got something that came through that's saying Coach Graves has been named or will be named the head coach at Southern University. So I guess it's going to be official. I want to say at the next board meeting, which may be, let me see. I'm trying to go through it. Okay, so the press conference is actually going to be December 13th. So that's tomorrow, I assume.
Yes, sir. Yeah. That will be on Wednesday.
Yeah, he will be named the head coach at Southern University.
Well, as an alumnus, how do you feel about that, sir?
I'm fine with it. I like, it's one of those things. I'm gonna pull for whoever the head coach is. So it's surprising because they fired the Coach Dooley before the Bayou Classic, and now we almost 3 weeks to a month out, and you hire somebody in-house. That's the surprising part to me. I mean, they could have named him the head coach Tuesday after the Bayou Classic if that's the way that they were going to go with it. If you didn't have somebody lined up already, when you fire coach mid-season or not towards the end of the season, you got to have somebody lined up to go right now. It's going to be some people that love Coach Graves because of the energy that he brings, because he's been there for a while, and it's going to be some people that's not going to like the hire because he was on the staff already. So, like I said, I'm a support whoever the head coach is, but it is a surprising move being that they took so long to name somebody in-house.
Well, let me play devil's advocate on that end. Could it be that Chennis Berry was their actual targeted guy, but as a result of him now being at South Carolina State, they went with the next best thing?
I mean, yeah, that very well may be the case, but, at the same time, that was, 2 weeks ago, and I want to say Coach Berry's team lost out in the playoffs the same weekend as the Bayou Classic, so, you have, in my opinion, plenty of time to put your feelers out and say, hey, man, and Coach Berry has been to Baton Rouge. He's been to the field house. He knows the lay of the land. So it shouldn't have taken him long, in my opinion, to say, yes, I'm interested. No, I'm not interested. And you move on and go to the next person. And like I say, this is my opinion. Have I ever been an athletic director before? No, but I have set in on some hiring processes. And, I know how it goes when those searches are going on.
Okay, well, as the dominoes begin to fall, and that's why I love what we do here at the Open Mic, we get it, and once it's confirmed, we lay it out there. Terrence Graves reportedly will be named the new football coach for the Southern Jags, which now leaves Texas Southern and Grambling. And, Coach, I'm pretty sure that just like I'm hearing, you're hearing all kind of wild and possible creations. Do you see anything in your crystal ball or what could possibly happen to these two that remain?
Now, I think you're going to still hear some of the same names involved with those two universities. Like to say, Ed Reed named them start popping back up at Grambling, which I think he was in the running for before, if I'm not mistaken. Then Grambling may try to find someone that played there that's coaching somewhere that, like I say, you have Doug's son who played quarterback at Graham, even though he's a very young guy coaching in the NFL. You have a Byron Brown that's been an offensive coordinator and a head coach at a couple different schools. Currently a D2 head coach at Lane College, I want to say. And a few other guys' names going to be in the mix. At Texas Southern, I have no idea which way. Then also, too, Mickey Joseph's name is probably going to be brought up at both schools because he coached at Grambling before, coached at Louisiana Tech, is a Louisiana guy, and, he may very well pop up in the Texas Southern search as well because of, the ties to having recruited the state of Texas when he was working at LSU and Louisiana Tech, even though he primarily focused on New Orleans. Even when he was at Langston, they would dip down into the Dallas area. So that's not a big stretch to hear Mickey's name come up in the coaching search as well. And now I saw ULM just named a new head coach, and I don't know if they're going to try to keep Coach Fives there, if he's interested in getting back on the 1AA level, getting back on the road, or if he wants to stay in the area, in the Ruston, Monroe, Grambling area where, he's from the Ruston. He's from Monroe.
Okay, well, that's not a far commute to Houston.
Yeah.
You know, he can make that work, Coach. You know, I always thought
Yeah.
very highly of Coach Fobb, and be interested if he were to consider coming back. Would they be interested in receiving him? And be an interesting look on how he would assemble his staff. So it's so much going on out here, and I got to ask you this, Coach. It make you kind of itch a little bit, don't you, when you hear about all these potentials as far as your coaching cap and whistle?
A little bit, yeah. Like I say, it depends on who I'm talking about or what I'm talking about. But like I said, I tell people, you know, and maybe I shouldn't tell them. My number one priority is, you know, sort of trying to see Adam through his last year of high school, and after that, I may see what's going on. And you know, like I tell people, you know, some people say, well, go here and go do this and all that, and I keep trying to tell people, I don't feel like I need validation from certain institutions to make me feel like I'm a good football coach. That's one thing, and the other thing is just being able to do the things that I sort of set out that I wanted to do from a family standpoint, and football is going to take care of it. I always say football is going to be there, and if not, I'll find something else that floats my boat.
Well, you know, you got that hunting thing that you like to do too, so there's going to always be something to do, right, Coach?
Yes. Hey, and let me tell you something, man. I took Adam hunting last week, and we wasn't in the woods 10 minutes, and I hear 2 shots, and he said, man, I got 2 bucks down. I mean, like, he hadn't been out there 10 minutes, and they dropped right where he shot them. So I spent earlier part of today actually getting the meat ready to send to the processor. So we'll have a little something for you. But my dad swear to God, Adam keep chocolate chips or pecans or something in his pocket and throw it out there for the dinner, man. But I always I say, man, you had the best guide ever. The guide hadn't killed anything, but I can sure put other people on there.
Now, he had to help with the dressing part too now, right?
Yes, he did. I've been teaching them slowly but surely how to do it. And, you know, like I tell them now, I say, man, you at the point now, you need to do this on your own because at the end of the day, man, my hands will be hurting fooling around with that deer.
I know that's right. Well, I'll make sure that you might have it on standby, but I'll make sure I text it, email, airmail, everything to you, the address, so we can make sure that meat gets where it needs to be. How about that?
Yes, sir.
Talking with Coach Heiss Northern, it is championship week. You might not have known it if you've been listening to us, but we are now about to turn just slightly toward the game on the field. FAMU, and I know you said last time we got together, Coach, you don't really see this being that great of a challenge if they show up and be the FAMU that we are accustomed to seeing, and which will lead me to another reference on Coach Simmons in a moment. But there is another opponent who stands in front of them, Howard Bison, who have earned their way to represent in this game. When you get a chance to kind of look at what they bring to the table, they are a physical team, Coach. And it might not be as glitz and glamorous as what comes with FAMU, but these guys bring their hard hats and they come ready, showing up for work.
Yes, and looking back, you know, Howard probably should have beaten Northwestern when they played them early in the year. But I still think with everything that they do offensively, and they're not the typical SWAC team because of how big that defensive line is and the athleticism and the size that they play with. Like I say, when you look at their linebackers, they are linebacker-sized kids that can run. It's not the safeties that's been moved to linebackers because you're trying to get more speed on the field. So they have good size with the tackles, very good size at the defensive end spot, and I just think unless Musa just has a awful game, Florida A&M is going to win. And they could probably do it a couple different ways with the speed sweep, jet sweep series that they run, and then with the power and the inside zone that they run. I just think that they're going to give Howard some fits trying to match up with them. And I think the biggest thing is Florida A&M on offense is going to have to be patient with the football. They can't just go in there and say, we're going to be faster than these guys, and we're going to throw it deep. And Howard is sitting back there playing cover 4, playing way off so they don't get beat deep, and then try to rally up and make tackles.
Right. And another key thing is they can't give up on the run early, neither can they?
I really don't think that they will. Like I say, I say Coach Simmons, they have seen the error of his ways before, trying to put it in the air either too much sometimes or, trying to get the big play. I really do think if they live with the short passing game, because Howard is trying not to give up the big play, they can turn some of those hitches and slants and the rub routes into big touchdowns. And even Florida A&M screen game is pretty good if they playing their cover 4 look. The safeties and corners back deep, and now you get a lineman out on the linebacker, and you get one block, and it's 20 yards before anybody else gets to him.
Right. Now, Coach, I want to ask you about Coach Simmons. He's been on a successful run, and a lot of opportunities that come up in that Group 5 era, or area, I should say, when they make mention, they'll hint, Middle Tennessee was one of the latest hires, and there was a lot of disgruntledness, and people say we'd have done better hiring Willie Simmons or the Tulane job that came available. And do you believe that he will get a fair shake one day, and is he deserving of a fair shake on the Group 5 era?
Getting and deserving, I would say, are two different things. I would say for his sake and for HBCU football coaches, I would say, yeah, but like I keep going back to myself, I don't feel like I need validation. Now, some people may feel like they need validation to go coach at a different FCS school or a Power 5 school to think they're a good football coach. I'm not cut that way. I don't know how Coach Simmons is. He may feel like that's his ultimate goal, but that has never been my ultimate goal. Now, have I had chances to? Yes. But I tell you what, when I've sat in on some interviews at, I would say, some low-level Group of 5 schools as well as some Power 5 schools, and somebody tells you all they want you to do is convince mama to let their son come play for you, then I officially have a problem with that. Or if when I was on the quote-unquote interview circuit and a guy tells me he wants to pay me less than what I was making when I was just say the defensive coordinator at Prairie View, just to go coach at a ULM or UL Lafayette or somewhere. Nah, I'm good where I'm at. So I don't know how he's cut, but I do think if he keep putting numbers up, somebody will give him a chance, because it's guys out there getting chances whose resume don't look, I would say, nearly as good as his. Not even close. But the bad part about it, you're not even hearing brothers getting considered for offensive coordinator jobs, which seems like that's where most of the head coaching position are coming from now. You can be on the staff and they'll bring in, you got a running back coach and a wide receiver coach that know the offense inside and out that you've been successful with, and they'll bring somebody else in. It's just hard for me to sort of sit back and keep looking at the same thing and guys just getting passed by, but they making so much money that they just live with it. But I just don't see it like that. But I do hope he gets a chance if that's what he wants. And I know he likes being at Florida A&M, but at the same time, if he want one of those Group of 5 jobs, then he should have every bit of access to it as any other coach that's been on as successful of a run that he has.
Yes, sir. I'm in total agreement with that. And I want to ask you this question. Charlie Baker, current president of the NCAA, let out a memo this past week given from his data the average spending per division for, for athletic programs. And out of his penmanship, his thoughts, and his analyst, he referred that the average athletic budget for D2 programs is right at $20 million. That's the average D2 program. And
Mm-hmm.
said the average D1, which some would call Division 1 AA, is anywhere between 25 and $50 million. Our top budget in the Southwestern Athletic Conference is right at $15 million. How do we make
Mm-hmm.
that up? How do we make that up?
Well, the the funny thing is, I guarantee you, if some of those states assemblymen went back and looked at their budgets and lack of funding that they gave over the years, and they say, "Man, we're gonna do right," it would look a whole lot different. But what's the likelihood of that happening? But I, it is. I mean, you like to say from private funding, but that's not really likely either. The bottom line is going to have to come from the people that were supposed to give the money to said universities, give the money that they were supposed to be getting, and then once you get it, doing right by the funds that you get. Doing what you're supposed to do. And you know what? I was listening to somebody talk about how at one of the schools where in certain states you can't use state funding for athletic buildings. So what they started doing at some of the schools was, just say you building a new football stadium or you want to do an indoor field house, well, make it under the intramural banner, or make it where you have classes meeting under the football stadium, and now you can use that. Part of the field house, you put some extra classrooms in there where you can use state funding as well. So you got to be creative. That's what it sort of goes back to at the end of the day. You got to be creative, but give people what you're supposed to do, what you're supposed to give them.
And with that being a reality, are we not somewhat restricted of what we can pay our coaching staffs in particular?
Well, like I say, unless you get some outside funding, which some schools are able to do, and it is a wide variety. If you go just to the FCS schools, you're gonna have some schools that maybe have close to 1,000 students, and then you're gonna have some of your bigger state schools that are in the FCS with in the 20 to 25,000, but they just may not want to play 1A football. So it's a wide variety, but at the same time, people still want the same results, no matter how many kids you have in school, or as long as you have a team, the alumni won't win.
Yes, sir. No doubt about it. My final question in this area, Coach. On an FCS level, HBCU to be more specific, what would be the perfect budget for you realistically in order to have everything that you need to build a successful program? What annual budget you think would be necessary for you to have that success?
To be honest with you, I couldn't, because I would have to look at what are my travel costs, how much are my scholarships, what's my recruiting budget. The biggest thing now that coaches are negotiating into their contracts is the summer school budget. How many kids can I bring to summer school to allow my program to be successful? And that's a big sticking point for some coaches. If I can't have but 10 or 15 guys there that I'm paying for, and other schools are paying for those guys to go to summer school, and they're not in a program where the program director don't want the guys to come work out, those are the types of things that coaches are getting into now when they negotiate. It's not just about the head coach's pay. It's about what does my program need. And so I couldn't give you a number, but I just know some things that if I was to get back into a head coaching, that's one of the things that I would have to negotiate. Summer school budget, like a extra meal budget, whether I'm getting protein shakes, healthy snacks for my guys, different things like that. That's something that we don't think about, or that wasn't thought about, that when you go to some other schools and you walk into their weight room and they have a smoothie machine, muscle milk sitting there for the guys, and when you go to their summer practices and they have 60 or 70 guys there, that makes a big difference in the outcome of the football game.
Okay. Well, Coach, it's always a blast to sit down and talk X's and O's, the business part of it, the emotional part of it, and, of course, the physical part of it. I want to give you some closing thoughts and comments as we get ready to wrap this segment up for this week.
Nah, just keep your eyes and ears open. As they say, it's going to be some more things coming. Hopefully we start getting a better process for when we let coaches go, when we bring them in. But like I say, some people, we have to realize that there are certain state laws that have to be followed depending on where the funding comes from. But like I say, I'm just looking forward to watching some football over the break, spending some time with my family. And like I say, I'll be pulling for Coach Simmons and the Rattlers as the new members of the SWAC. And once they win it, all the FAMU people are going to talk about it. Took a MEAC school to win it for the SWAC. So,
well, you might as well put the seatbelt on.
Yeah, they're officially SWAC members now, but I'll be pulling for Coach Simmons and his staff, and hopefully they can pull it off. They are, in my opinion, I ain't gonna say by far, because they did have a couple scares, but they should go ahead on and finish it the right way and finish with one loss and be the champs.
Do you dare give us a score, Coach?
I think it's probably going to be a 35-17-ish game, somewhere in that range, with Florida A&M coming out on top.
35-17. I'm putting you down, Coach. I'm putting you down. Somewhere up in there, but it's going to be a win for the FAMU Rattlers. They're going to strike, and strike again, right?
Yeah, I tell you, I done heard that a couple of times, boy.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, Coach, look, man, we appreciate you so much. Keep that dip meat being groomed and prepared and ready for the process. And as they say, we'll keep the light on for you. He is Coach Ice Northern. I am the radio guy, Dr. Mike Prince. Thank you guys so much for joining in with us. Don't forget to follow me on X at The Mike Prince Show. Subscribe to the YouTube channel at The Open Mic Broadcast Network. And until the next time, you guys be blessed, and we'll see you on the other side.